Welcome to the Finding the Magic podcast, where books come alive. I'm Tricia Copeland, a fiction author and host of this show. If you love books, finding great reads, and hearing about the story behind the story directly from the authors, this is the place for you. Whether you like fantasy, science fiction, dystopian, or romance titles, I think you'll find something to love in my playlist. Listen in to discover something magical about a book or two today. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Tricia.
I'm
How
so
are
glad to
you?
have you here today. We have Lisa Amowitz. She's a young adult fantasy author. And I looked a bit about your books online. YA Secret Garden Fantasy Retelling. Jump in and tell us all about your first book.
Well, there are three of them actually.
Okay.
Um, An Island Strange and Wild is the first book, which is going to ultimately be a 5-book series. Um, it didn't start out that way, but it just ended up that way. I found that there was much more to tell than just one book. So, this book, as a child, I loved The Secret Garden. And I know a lot of people talk about The Secret Garden because it was a TV show, but I'm talking about the original. And I was just, I don't know, I love the whole concept of hidden worlds and just having this mundane life. I grew up in a very mundane suburban setting where I was always looking for magic and nature and whatever little patches of grass I could find. And I was the kind of kid that would sit up in a tree and hope that there were like gnomes under the rocks at the base of the tree. This is God's honest true story. So, I just always loved The Secret Garden, and I had written many things that never went anywhere. And then for some reason, when I started initially publishing in YA, I was writing thrillers. And then it just occurred to me, I should do The Secret Garden. So this book came into my brain in 2013, the summer my first book, Breaking Glass, was released. And it took me literally 10, 11, a lot of years until it worked. Uh, it started off very weird and didn't make a lot of sense. And a lot of people tore it apart and helped me. And finally, it ended up in the state that it's in now, which I'm quite pleased with. So.
Well, good. Set us up with the characters and the world and what's happening.
Well, it says it. I mean, I market it and I call it a Secret Garden retelling, but I think mashup, smash up is more appropriate because the only thing it really has to do with the Secret Garden is that there's a garden and it's secret, and there's a sort of displaced young lady who's the main character. That's Rosalie Gattel. I'll tell you a little more about her. There's a boy with a green thumb. That's her love interest, Liam O'Donnell. And there's a sick boy who is a sort of a denizen on this strange island she ends up on. But there's other people and other situations. So really, it's Rosalie is a science geek who thinks the child of a single mother, who a very overbearing single mother who has her whole life plotted out for her. And Rosalie is supposedly going to be studying abroad before she goes to college in the school that her mother has decided she's going to study astrophysics. And everything gets derailed when the boy she thinks she's in love with asks her to go to the island that he's from, this remote island off the coast of Maine. Now, you should know, I wrote this entire book and had not gone to Maine until the summer of 2024 after the book came out. And there were parts of it that really met my expectations of Maine, and other parts of it that was like, no, no, this isn't what I expected. Well, anyway, I like the Maine in my brain. Too many other people like Maine. That's the problem with Maine. It's gotten too much love. if you know what I mean. It's too busy.
Yeah, places
Um,
like that tend to, and they're really nice to visit.
yeah, I never got that impression just from seeing pictures but there were parts of the coastline that really looked very much like a book. Anyway, so the premise is that her, I could tell you this isn't really a spoiler because it happens in the first chapter, but her best friend dies in a shocking accident, and she's left with the regret that she didn't agree to go with him to this island. So she ends up defying her mother's wishes, which is the first time she's ever done that in her life. And it's something he wanted her to do that she wouldn't do. But now that he's dead, she feels, I better go do it. And so she goes to this island and she gets there. And that's where all these things unfold. This island has so many secrets and it's very strange. And she just, things keep, it's like an onion, different layers keep peeling off. And I can't say too much other than that she does stumble on a very strange, strange garden. And she discovers all kinds of things about herself, her family's history. Um, she meets Liam, who has a green thumb. Green thumb. It's a really unusual green thumb.
Oh, okay.
He's also incredibly mysterious and you're a hot what book boyfriend from your typical
That's
hot book
always
boy. I
fun.
mean, I love him. He's my book boyfriend. So and Rosalie, it's the kind of like an enemies to lovers kind of thing because Rosalie's like still mourning this, she's still grieving over the boy that she thought she loved, and she's like not in any emotional state to carry on with this guy who's just, she can't read him. He's friendly, he's not, he's there when she needs him and then he's not, and he's just full of contradictions, and he's a complete enigma. I think she calls him in the book an enigma. It's something that Winston Churchill said, something, an enigma wrapped in a riddle, wrapped in a mystery, or something like that. So does that give you a good idea?
That does, yes. So I guess you can't give away too many spoilers because we
I
don't we
can't.
don't want to ruin the book. Um,
No.
but you said how so you have two books plus a prequel out now, right?
Yeah.
And so does she stay on this island? Is it like completely her life gets thrown askew and now she's gonna
Oh,
stay
her life gets thrown askew. She doesn't necessarily stay on this island, but nothing is ever the same for her. And, as we learn, as the secrets unfold, the adventure begins. And the novella is actually a prequel. So my readers have chided me and said, please do not tell people to read that novella first. Make sure they read An Island Strange and Wild first because you have spoilers in there and we're really mad at you if like give it away. And the thing is though that that's the way they read it, so it's possible that's just their own bias. I don't know. I haven't heard anybody say, "Oh man, that novella really spoiled Island for me." I really don't know. But the point is that Island starts with this kid having this tragic ending, and then the novella is about the same kid who we know. So if you read the novella, it's a spoiler, but all you have to do is read the intro on Amazon to the next book. So it's really not, it's a spoiler, but it's almost like, you know, I don't know if you're a fan of White Lotus. You like White Lotus? Did you
yes,
watch it?
oh
You
yes,
can
hanging on
talk about that all you
everyone.
like. I'm like obsessed with White Lotus, but you know how White Lotus starts, it's like somebody's gonna die. So it's like how, like you
You're
don't
just
know who and
waiting
how.
until they die and how they die
That's right. How do they
and now
die? Who's gonna die?
I'm starting to second guess it was so and so, right? Like
Wait, no, don't tell me they gaslighted us. No, no. I got so confused. I thought somehow that Fabian died, and I said to my kid, I said, "Didn't he die? I could swear I saw him like riddled with blood and flood." And then they looked it up. They go, "No, that was just the bodyguard." I go, "Okay." I mean, that would have been really sad because nobody paid any attention to that guy. And then, but anyway, back to our book. So, it's kind of like with the novella, what we're learning is, well, because Tyler also had so many secrets that he was keeping from Rosalie, and she starts to unravel his secrets when she's there. So you kind of learn, you see his discovery of his secrets, like how he learned and what did he know and what did he tell her and what did he not tell her. And you kind of get inside his head a bit to understand what led to his, him. So that's the novella. And the second book, A Secret Deep and Savage, is it ends on this sort of, it's not I guess it doesn't qualify as a true romance because it is not, the first book is not a happily ever after, but it ends on a cliffhanger where it's like oh no, so everybody wants to know what's happening. And so the second book is really a completely wild ride that has only a little bit to do with the Secret Garden. And I was so worried that it has more to do with Jules Verne, Journey to the Center of the Earth. But I just didn't know what people would think, when I just took them on this crazy adventure, but they seem to like it. So there's going to be a third book, which theoretically is going to be released later this. I say theoretically because I haven't finished it. And I think the title is, I don't even know. It's a legend, dark and something, or dark and deadly. I don't know. It's something like that. I have to look it up. And then there will be a fourth book, which is the conclusion of everything.
Okay.
So,
So 4 books in series plus the prequel.
yeah.
Fine. Yeah, sometimes I always get to the what I think is going to be the ending, and then it's not the ending. So you never know.
Yeah. Well, you got to leave kind of an ending, There has to be some kind of a pause, Like I don't want to just make it seem like it's one like 10,000 word book that I just chopped up into pieces and said, here, you know, it's, you know, it's like a whatever. It has its own conclusion, but the main thing that you want to occur still keeps going, if that makes any sense.
Okay, yeah. So how do we, is this through first person point of view through Callie's, or is it third person?
It's Rosalie's point of view
Oh,
completely.
sorry, Rosalie, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. That's a nice name. Maybe I'll use that for something else. It is only, it has a few POV shifts, very few. Um, there's no Liam point of view. It's Rosalie, and then there's like a bad guy. And occasionally you get this, there's an omniscient narrator, I think at the end, where you just don't know who it is. Um, it's my book, I should remember, right? But um, yeah, it's mostly like 99% from Rosalie's first person point of view.
I like that point of view. I think it's always fun.
It's fun for me to write. I am writing a third person point of view in a different series now. So
you said you have some series from before, or you're writing different series now. What else? What other books do you have, and what are you writing?
oh well, these are the first truly indie, published books. I had my first indie published book was actually a reissue of a book that was not indie published. My first actual published book came out in 2013. It was from a publisher called Spencer Hill Press. And I'm happy to say I was published along with Jennifer Armentrout when she was just a beginner. Got to meet her and all that stuff. I mean, Spencer Hill Press in his heyday was the most amazing, wondrous thing, one of the best experiences of my life. And I still, have connections with some of those people. But so my first book was Breaking Glass. And it was sold by my agent at the time, and it came out, and we went to Book Expo, and I was all over the place, and it did pretty well. It won awards and such, you know. And then the next year, they released a horror book that I wrote called Vision, They were all, this was a standalone. Breaking Glass, it's out. Breaking Glass is out there. It's on, it's even got an audiobook. But I re-released that in 2023. I redid the cover. So that's mine. And I did an audiobook myself. But then Spencer Hill Press still has two books of mine. One is called Vision, that was intended to be a standalone. That's kind of like a murderer, serial killer, horror-ish kind of thing. And then there was this non-finished series called Until Beth. It was supposed to be Life and Beth series or whatever it was called. And that was supposed to be a trilogy. And it ended with like to be continued. And guess what? I never did. I never finished it because things changed with the publisher, and I just didn't feel compelled to work on it. And you know, I don't know. It's like I really love that book, and maybe someday I'll pick it up again and finish the series. But right now, my mind is I'm just moving kind of away from YA, to be honest with you.
Well, other genres are great too, yeah.
Yeah,
And
there's
I
only
think
so many hours in the day, you know.
right, yeah, you can't do everything.
Yeah.
So how did you become an author? What
Oh God, quite by accident.
fell into it?
I'm an artist, you know.
Okay.
Can you tell? Do I look like an artist? I mean, I am an artist. I've always been an artist. I teach graphic design. I have an MFA in painting. I, just always drew art, made art. And occasionally I would write little things because I wanted something to draw about, or I do comics or whatever. And, even back in my when I was first out of college, I thought I was writing something in longhand, and it was so bad. It's like I didn't know what I was doing. So I was like, I'll forget it. You tried to be a musician, can't do that. You tried to be a writer, can't do that. Just stick to art. That's what you do. That's what you're good at. Just do it. So fine. Years go by. I become a professor. I am a professor. I am a full professor at City University of New York. I run the design program in the community college, Bronx Community College. That's my job. It's my day job. Hi, students. Everybody knows. It's not a secret what I do. And I do design my own covers. I thought maybe you'd be interested in
Yeah,
knowing.
your covers are beautiful
Thanks.
and amazing.
Thank you. I love doing them. It's so much fun. And and I do covers for other people as well. So
I was
how
gonna
this
say,
happened,
you're on my list.
I oh good, good, good. We can talk. I mean, actually two of my clients are former people who were published with Spencer Hill Press with me because they've gone indie too. Hi, Jennifer. You could get her on the podcast. Jennifer Ellis Provost. Shout out, shout out. She's
Okay.
awesome. Yeah, I'll
Jennifer
ask her if she
Armentrout
wants.
was Jennifer Armentrout
No,
was
no,
on
no,
the
no, 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 no. Sorry, Jennifer Armentrout. She's a wonderful person, but we're not like super close or anything. Jennifer Alice Provost and I, we're buds, and we occasionally say hi to each other, whatever. We used to go to book expos and make all kinds of trouble together. So we have fond memories of calling each other Spammy and Lasagna. Yes,
Ooh.
we do. So we have that little history, but she is a really great client. And I'm really proud of the covers that I've recently done for her. So anyway, uh, I also have done covers. I'm giving plugs to my friends. I also did a cover for my very, very good friend Emily Collin, who has a beautiful and wonderful, not YA, a beautiful, wonderful romance serial called Fate and Fury, and it's really popular and fantastic. And I did the cover for that. Anyway, so back to how I got into writing. So it does relate to this professor story. So that was another thing I randomly became because all I ever wanted to do was be an artist. I wanted to be an illustrator. Got out of college, I'm like, this isn't going well. Guess I better try graphic design. Okay. So I kind of get into that and I'm like, eh. And then I learned the computers and I'm like, yeah, I like this. This is cool. So I was kind of ahead of the curve there, and I used that to, I found I was actually pretty good at teaching, much to my surprise. And and I also fell in love with Bronx Community College, where I have been at for untold years. Like, like, you know, they built the place around me. So,
If
and
I could stay in school all my life, I probably would.
oh my God, it's my way of staying in school all my life, and like being around crazy art students all my life. Hi, students, I love you. You know, I mean, they're different than they used to be, but they're still deeply crazy if you do a little scratch the surface in a good way, in the best way. So, so yeah, the thing is that the college offers grants, right? Especially when you're a new professor, they encourage you to do a lot of professional outside work, and that's how you get your promotions. So my chairperson, bless him, God rest her soul, Ruth Bass, said, Lisa, you have to do these grants. You have to get a grant. So I got one grant for one thing, and I'm like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Oh, yeah, what about that children's book I wrote like 100 years ago? Let me unearth that thing and see if I could get a grant just to do the illustrations for it. Like that was my intention. And I wanted to do it because I wanted to get a laptop. Okay. I became a writer because I wanted to get a laptop. I wanted to get a laptop funded. And this was a very long time ago when laptops were not that common, or they were very rare and special and really expensive. So I put together this grant. I get the grant, and I'm like, yeah, I guess I gotta write this so I have something to illustrate. Right. So I'm going to tell you the year. You could date me if you like. In the summer of 2004, people were still reeling over 9/11, right? I live in New York. So
Yeah.
it made a big impact on us. And it really changed children's books, in a way that my kids were getting into Harry Potter. And I was into Harry Potter. And what I realized about Harry Potter was that it was, it was dipping into very dark, dark things, loss, grief, terror, and horror. And I'm like, I like that. I like that darkness. Children, it's like all our fears. It's not like for children. It was like I was thinking about my childhood. I used to like to sit there and think about gnomes. And, my gnomes would probably want to murder each other or something because that was how my mind. So I'm like, wow, all those games I used to play, I could write a story with all the weird things, right? Forget the secret garden. It wasn't even in my mind. So okay. So I start getting index cards and I start writing down characters. That was 2004 or three. By 2005, I had about six spiral bound notebooks filled with something you might want to call a book. It was so bad, but it was done. That was it. The bug had bit me, and I didn't even tell. Okay, so my best friend, she says to me, "What's wrong with you? You're acting really weird lately. You never have any time for me. You never want to talk to me. What's the matter with you? Are you on drugs?" I'm like, "No, I've been writing." And I was really embarrassed because it was bad, but I couldn't stop. So that's my story.
Very cool. That's fun. No, I know the same thing. Yeah, I started writing like when my kids were little because I was a stay-at-home mom, and so after they went to
Yeah,
bed, I was bored. Like I needed something
right.
for my mind to
Brain.
do. So instead of watching Netflix or just watching TV, I started writing my book and it was like a movie in my head that I was writing.
Exactly.
So yeah, and I entertained myself that way.
It's true. For me, it was processing. I was actually literally reading Harry Potter every night to my youngest child, who is now 29 years old, who was nine-ish at the time. And I would read it every night to them with a very, very bad British accent, like the worst. Nobody would ever hire me to do an audiobook for Harry Potter. But it didn't matter. I just read it. And was I reading it for them or was I reading it for me? I don't know. I was obsessed. And so that was part of it. Harry Potter, I suppose, has a lot to do with what really spurred me to finally want to do this. And not because I wanted to be J.K. Rowling or have that success. I just thought, wow, I know how I could tell these stories now. This means something to me. And I was processing all this angst about 9/11 and raising children in the shadow of 9/11 and what was that, the fear, like, I mean, obviously this century has taught us over and over again that you just got to do stuff despite fear because this whole century has been about fear. But that was the beginning of it, like the moment when the bubble burst and we're like, the world is a dangerous place and you're still going to raise kids. So, you're not going to stop. So how do you process it? So that's for me, the writing became that too, like a therapy and a way of processing my fears and my angst and what have you.
That's really cool. Yeah, and it's so interesting to me that you have this graphic side as well as like the written word side because I have no graphic abilities whatsoever. So,
Well, there is Canva.
well, no, I can do Canva. I can do that.
Yeah.
But if you ask
Canva
me
is
to go,
graphics.
yeah, I do these sketches for my cover artist, and she's like, no, no, just don't draw.
I know. It doesn't, you listen, let me tell you the fallacy about designing. You don't need to be able to draw. Okay. Like I've been teaching for 100 years, and I have some students that there's the kind of people who really, really, really can't draw, that like don't draw as well as like a 4-year-old. You know they're gonna have a problem. But most of my students most people can draw as well as a 10-year-old. And like as a graphic designer, that's about all you need to be able to do. Now, I have students that draw amazingly. They're so gifted and wonderful, but that doesn't mean they're going to be a better designer than a person who draws like a 12-year-old. You know,
Right. I
it's
think it's
not,
just having
it's
the
a
eye for
different,
putting things together, right?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I was a terrible graphic designer. I draw really well. I always drew, I'm really good with that stuff, but it really took me a long time to become a decent graphic designer. So that's why I fully and strongly believe that most people can learn some graphic design enough to do their own, little thingies. And I'm actually going to be hopefully making a webinar about that because I feel like I want to be the Piper of democratizing design. Like obviously, I still want my students to have jobs because the kind of design we do is hard. And I tell them that all the time. No, no, no. Don't you complain. Don't you complain that it's hard. I go, because if it's easy, if AI could do your job, you're not going to have one.
Right. So what's next for you? The
Good
next book of the
question.
series, right?
Well, there's something in between.
Okay.
As I had mentioned, I am trying to, um, I have written a book in a completely, utterly different genre than I've ever written. I think I've decided that I'm just losing my way in YA. A lot of it is because my kids are old now. I think when my kids were younger and then when teens, it was really easy for me to get inside of that brain, and to understand what was happening at the time and what was, you know, going on. And now, I look at my students and I'm like, what? You know, I don't know if I understand you. I only understand millennials. I'm sorry. I need a guidebook here. I mean, I'm learning. Look, they're great. They're wonderful and they're people and you just talk a while and you figure it out. But it still doesn't mean I understand or feel that comfortable writing YA anymore. Like my teenagers are going to seem like me, you know? And so I decided, I'm a certain age that maybe you could tell, and I feel like maybe I should write books about people my age. People my age deserve adventure and romance. So I have written a book and I hope it's going to be a really big series, a long series. And it's called A Whiff of Murder. It's a it's a cozy, not YA, it's a cozy paranormal mystery. And it's called A Whiff of Murder. And I hope it becomes a series called the Prickle Sisters. That's what I call them. They're, you know, and you want to ask me a question or should I just keep
No,
talking?
no, keep going. Yeah.
So, this book is written and it is currently on maybe its third draft. My said friend Emily Collin, who, we have a very mutual little assembly line going where I do her graphics, she does my editing. It works out really well for us. And we're friends we met online, but now we're like we literally in real life friends, even though we don't live in the same city, we manage to see each other a lot. So anyway, so she's my editor, so she's going through the edits and the book is done. And I am really, really, really hoping that I could release this thing in July. And I am actually hiring a cover designer for the first time in my life because I feel like I don't know if that's my area, to do that kind of cover. I want it to be, you know, market appropriate. So I hired this really great cover designer, Molly Phipps, who did Emily has a book in a different genre called Cursed, Cursed in Love. And I'm madly in love with that cover. Like I want to marry that cover. And so I said, I have to marry your cover designer. And I said, cover designer, do you know I'm a cover designer? So if a cover designer hires you, you must be a really good cover designer. So yeah. And so we haven't started working on the cover yet, but I am hoping beyond hope that this thing is good enough to publish in July. I still am not sure it's good enough because it's a new genre for me and I don't know what people like. Like are they going to like this book? It's really crazy. Like all my books, it starts off seemingly tame and then just veers off the complete deep end. So that's why it's called a paranormal mystery because it starts off seeming like a mystery, but which it is, but it gets crazier and more bizarre as the book goes on. And it has a lot of humor in it. Like I love the characters. They're twin sisters of a certain age in the early 60s, and they have moved to this town in upstate New York. I live in the city of New York, but I spend my summers 2 hours north in various locations. And if you're not from New York, you probably think New York is just one big city, but people don't understand that New York City is just a pimple on a very rural state. And there are very rural areas in New York. And so it's in a fictional version of a town that really exists that I go to. And I had such a blast, like changing the names of places and setting it there. And so these sisters theoretically have two adjoining stores on this main street in this little quaint town. One has a bookstore, the other has a sort of a vintage clothing, kind of new agey, you know, fussy little shop. And that sister is very flamboyant and she's a cougar. She's the worst flirt imaginable. And the bookstore owner is like neurotic and uptight and, you know, just a perfectionist, but really highly strung. And they're twins and they do not get along, as you can well imagine. But they have this one thing in common. They have this little family inheritance called a prickle, which is clairvoyance. And so Sonia's is related to the sense of smell, which is why she douses herself in a lot of perfume because she doesn't want to smell things that are going to tell her bad things that might happen. And Vera has what's that called when you touch things? Telemetry. She could touch things and know stuff. So she always wears white cotton gloves that she says is not to spoil the antique books that she sells. So both of them have a simultaneous prickle where they see somebody about to die. And
That sounds like an
that's how it
awesome
be.
setup for a book. Yeah, I think
And
it's
it's,
going to be great.
I love it. It's really funny. It's got like these kooky characters, like this guy named Boring Loring, and 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 it's crazy, wacky people. Yeah.
Well, we will look forward to all of that. Tell everyone where we can find you and your book.
Well, currently, I mean, I have a website, lisaamowitz.com. So you could find other things on there as well as my books. You could find my cover design stuff. You could find some of the art stuff I've done in the past, um, other kinds of graphic design, and you could find links to my books, which right now I have put on Amazon exclusively. They're in KDP. So they're available for sale. Um, the An Island Strange and Wild and A Secret Deep and Savage are available in paperback. Thomas Bright and Fragile, that's the prequel, is only available as an ebook, but they're all in KDP.
Okay,
So they're
fun.
in
And did you
Amazon.
mention audiobooks too?
Okay, so I should probably mention that. Breaking Glass is unrelated to any of these. That is also on Amazon. I think that one's wide. I don't remember. I think you could get that in Barnes and Noble or whatever, because I keep going back and forth and changing these things. But Breaking Glass is definitely on Amazon, and there is an audiobook narrated by this amazing actor. I did a Kickstarter for that to hire this really great guy, Maxwell Glick, who is like the voice of Jeremy Glass. Like I heard his voice and I'm like, it's Jeremy. And so I went like to hell and back to hire him. And, it was a vanity thing. I haven't really pushed it. But if you ever read that book and you want to hear Jeremy, you got to get the audiobook because Maxwell is him. But here's the little piece of news that it's been out on my social media. A wonderful narrator by the name of Perry Rain is currently recording all three of the books in the Lost Garden series: Secret, An Island Strange and Wild, A Promise Bright and Fragile, and A Secret Deep and Savage. And she's going to do the other two. So all 5 books will be recorded by her. If you look me up on Instagram, it's at Lisa underscore author. Wait, at Lisa underscore Amowitz dot author. That's me everywhere. That's me on TikTok, I think it's that. I don't know. Just look up Lisa. You know what? You could always find me anywhere because I am literally the only Lisa Amowitz on this planet.
That
So
makes things easy. Amowitz.
you could find me wherever you want to find me. You will not find me on Twitter. I am not there. I got off of there, but I am on Blue Sky. I am on Instagram. I am on TikTok. I am on Facebook. I have a readers group or on Facebook. It's a private group, but if you read my books and you want to join, it's on my LinkedIn. Actually, I could, you know what? Not my LinkedIn, my Linktree. Do you want me to share that with you?
All your links in the description.
My Linktree, not my LinkedIn.
That'll be great. Yeah.
I have a Linktree that has like stuff.
Okay. Yeah, you can.
I can send it to you later. I'll email it to you. You don't need it right now.
Okay.
Right?
No, not right now.
But I mean, if you went on Instagram and Facebook and you found me, there's a Linktree link that has links to my books. It has links to my Facebook group, which I said is private for people who've read the book and want to just hang out. Did I miss anything? No, that's it.
It seems like you've built an amazing world of books, and we appreciate that. So thank you for coming on and talking about your books. And
it's crazy.
Yeah, I hope you'll be back.
Well, you're a fantastic interviewer. I just feel like we're hanging out, having a chat. So what books do you write? Can I interview you? What do you write?
Yeah, I write YA fantasy too. So
good. Well, you have to show me your books because maybe I could feature you if I do anything.
Yeah, well, we can talk about that later, but thank you.
All right. Well, let me know if you need covers too. Be in touch. Let's stay friends. I like you. You're really cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, wait. I forgot to mention 2 other things of where you could find me. Okay. Like in real life, you could find me in 2 places soon. Other than if you just want to wander around the Bronx somewhere, because that's where I live. You could find me wander. The Bronx is really big, so you won't find me. But I'm going to be at an author event called the Gold Coast Author Fair on Long Island, New York. It's mostly in the town of Oyster Bay. I think that's coming up on the weekend of May 17th and 18th. I will post more details as I have them. I know it's coming up soon, but the big thing, it's probably a little too late for this because I think the registration is over, but the big thing I'm doing with my 3 best writer buddies is we are going to be authors at Literary Love Savannah in are you going to be there too? Have you heard of it?
No, I was just at another event. I'd never heard of it, LLS, and Literally Love Savannah. Somebody else at the event was like, "Oh yeah, we're going to LLS," and I was like, "Why haven't I heard about this?"
Oh man, I wish I had talked to you sooner. I think the registration closed, but you can see if you really want to go. It may still be open. They had closed it, but now they reopened it. The sad thing is that this is allegedly the last year. This is the first time I've ever done it. So it's a really big thing. And that's in July, so I will be there.
Fun.
And that is it.
Thank you for being here.
And on a lot of other podcasts that Mr. Michael Evan helped me set up.
Yeah, he is amazing. So
I
thank you.
know. I mean, I think there's 9. I don't know. And he keeps telling me there's more. Hi, Michael.
All those tidbits, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Trisha. It was really great talking to you. Let's stay in touch. You're cool. We got
Sounds good.
something in
Thank
common
you.
now. Okay, bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Finding the Magic podcast. I'm your host, author and podcaster Trisha Copeland, and I love getting behind the scenes. If you like the podcast, make sure to subscribe and stop in each week to discover new authors and books. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep finding the magic.